We kick things off, though, as we always seem to do when it comes to big transfers at Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez is rumoured to be back on for over £100 million. Impressed, of course, so much at the World Cup. It is thought that he could make the move before the transfer window closes tomorrow. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we, former Chelsea defender Mario Melchiot is with us, as is Julien Laurens. Jules, I thought this was dead.
Yeah, I think we all thought it was dead. I was told tonight that the two clubs were still in contact, but certainly Chelsea looked at other options, signed other players, of course, in the meantime, but always thought about Enzo Fernandez in the back of their mind, and they tried for Moises Caicedo, for example, in midfield. So they were clearly trying to find someone to strengthen their midfield, and I think in the end, it looked like they were all going back to the same place at the whole time, which was Enzo. There's nobody right now better than Enzo Fernandez for them, despite the price, despite the short time that they left themselves to go and make that deal. And certainly the discussions that they had today with Benfica, with Rui Costa, who is the Benfica president, have been quite positive. So I think they are quite optimistic that before the deadline tomorrow night, Tuesday night, they'll be able to make that transfer that really would take this transfer window from a Chelsea point of view to an incredible level.
It really would. I wish I bought shares in Enzo in the summer.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is, man.
It's incredible.
It's more than 10 times.
Unbelievable.
Which makes you sort of start to wonder. Had Argentina not had that horrific start to the World Cup when he wasn't playing and they changed the team primarily because they had to, and had he not played pretty much of a part of the World Cup, would this move even be happening? Are Chelsea paying, it seems, well over 100 million for a guy who's a good player, clearly, but had a great World Cup? That's what you have to think to yourself. Or are they going to say, oh no, we were scouting this player for quite a while ago? Well, if you're scouting this player for quite a while ago, then how come he went to Benfica for a song? Yeah. And now you're paying a king's ransom for him? So, I mean, it's... And the other thing is how they, and I don't want the answer to this.
don't even ask.
Somehow I know the question.
I don't even know. I'm just going to throw this out there, but I don't want anybody to answer it. How the hell is it going to get around all the financial fair play? Okay. Nobody answer. Right. That's just a rhetorical statement.
Mario, let's focus on Enzo, shall we? How excited are you by the prospect of he joining Chelsea, and is he the kind of missing piece of the puzzle?
No, clearly, look, Chelsea's going after something to build, right? They've bought so many players now over a short period of time. What is he, number 8 or number 9 now, you understand, coming in a short period? So looking at that, they're also looking at trying to maneuver the situation where they're in now. If Jorginho is not going to be there next season, and then they're looking at Kante that's been injured for so long, they need an answer to that. So the answer to that is clearly, Fernandez. But the question comes, what Craig just mentioned is, in a short period of time, he's managed to get to that number and they're going after him really aggressively. That makes him so important for that team. And that's why also, look, if you look at the age group, we understand 22 years old, the kid is young, he has a bright future. But guys, I hope Chelsea is not buying so many numbers, because after a while, you know what's going to happen. Problems are going to come.
That was the thing you said there, is it the missing piece of the puzzle? Yeah. And I'm sitting going, it's some size of puzzle, this.
It is quite a puzzle as well.
When Graham Potter empties it out the box, there's a lot of pieces.
Holy cow.
The missing piece of Chelsea's puzzle for me is still an out-and-out goal scorer.
Right.
That's their most urgent need. Yet they've spent, and we can discuss the talent and the value for money that they're getting, but they are still missing what they need most. And if you are paying this kind of money for a midfielder, talented midfielder, work of winners, as Craig mentions, what are you prepared to spend for a striker, for a player that you actually need? And that's a concerning thing from Craig's perspective, given the financial fair play guru that he's all of a sudden become. What does that all of a sudden start looking like for Chelsea?
This is telling me that this is just off the cuff. Yeah, I know they've brought recruitment people in, various ones, and all that. But this is telling me that they're not really heeding what the manager's saying, because he was on record at a press conference I don't know, a couple of months ago, maybe a little bit more, saying, I can't have 25, 30 players, and when they're all fit, when they're all
8-year contract.
yeah, when they're all fit, like I've got this huge headache now, and it's going to cause problems in the dress. It could cause problems in the dressing room, try to keep everybody happy. I'm going to have to leave so many out. And they said that's really not the way forward. Well, the Chelsea hierarchy have gone out and gone way the opposite way to what he's saying. They've just gone out and absolutely filled the dressing room with these new signings. There's talk. I know we're going to talk about one or two maybe going out. But that's only going to scratch the surface, the one or two going out compared to what's gone in. So Potter said that a couple of months ago, and he probably said that to the hierarchy, but they're not listening.
The thing for me is not just Potter saying this, but I can't think of any football person who thinks this is a good idea, who thinks spending this amount of money or having a squad this big makes any kind of footballing sense. So then if you have football people, you assume, involved in the club, advising Todd Bowley, the owner, and this is still happening, you can't help but feel that this is Bowley just going out on a limb and saying, well, this is how I win the Chelsea fans over, given who I'm taking over from in Roman Abramovich, how well he was liked, the kind of money he spent, and now he's trying to do that in an effort to win over favour, but it doesn't make any kind of sporting sense in my mind.
But if I'm a Chelsea fan, do I care that it doesn't make sporting sense? This is what I want. I want to see big players coming to my club. Liverpool's sitting on their hands at the moment. United aren't spending money.
If you're a Chelsea fan, great.
Yeah.
You just showing up at Stamford Bridge and cheering your team on. If you're working within that club, if you're having to manage players as Graham Potter is, or any of the backroom staff, if you're having to figure out some of the other issues around financial fair play or moving players on, this is an absolute nightmare. It has to be.
Mario, they're 10 points off top 4 at the moment. You imagine that's kind of the target if you're Chelsea, isn't it? If he can get all these pieces of the jigsaw to fit, can they get there? Can they close that gap? Can they do it between now and the end of the season?
Look, with what they're spending, they should. But the problem is, I think, the settlement of making sure that it becomes a team. That's going to be the hardest part, because what the guys just highlighted, about Potter. Look, I was at the club, a couple of weeks ago, and the highlight that we had, that was the one that Shaka just mentioned. We spoke to among ourselves, the players that were there before, and said the biggest problem of Chelsea right now wasn't really okay, you need a midfielder, but it's a striker. We talked about that. Why? Because I was talking to Jimmy, and Jimmy said to me, I don't know why we are, going around and buying so many. But clearly, Kai Havertz was playing as a striker. He scored the goal in the Palace game. But we looked at the way the game was going, and the biggest piece they were missing, someone up front that could hold the ball up. And that was so evident, and that's why they brought Lukaku. Eventually, the relationship broke up. But now, going back to where they are right now, they need to make sure that they have to be careful, because Abramovich did it. Look what Newcastle is doing. They're taking their time now. They're going slowly in building their success. And I hope Chelsea's not going too fast.
Jules, are we in a situation that they've just put all their eggs in an Nkunku basket, so therefore don't want to spend big on a striker that isn't necessarily going to be first choice come the start of next season?
I think it's a little bit different than that. They've looked at strikers this month because, like us, they know, and they've hired an army of sporting directors who are all doing different things, but the same thing at the end, which is all good. So they can see the same thing as us. The thing is, I think they considered there was no point to sign another Aubameyang, for example, which was clearly a panic buy on the last day of the summer transfer window, which was not the right profile, not the right age. For quite a lot of money, really, for the player that he is and that he was when they signed him. Instead, they clearly consider don't sign a striker now and do a big one in the summer where you'll have more players available, more time to do it. There's a lot of things. January is so short and so difficult usually, and I think that's why they chose. It's not like if they didn't want to sign a striker. I think they wanted to. They looked into it, and they thought, you know what? If we can't get the one that we want, whether it's Osimhen or Vlahovic or one of those top strikers in Europe right now, what's the point of going and get someone who we're not really convinced by, we don't really want to, just for another body? They signed Fofana, who's a young player. They've already played him against City in the FA Cup, for example. That was his debut. And I think they think that right now with Joao Felix and Kai Havertz and Fofana and Aubameyang still there, maybe that's just enough to finish the season as well as possible, instead of just wasting, in a way, some money on a striker that they don't really want, instead of waiting for the summer to get the big one that they know they need, and that they could also sort out the Lukaku situation and then go for the big name striker.
Go on, Mario.
No, because you know why? When I was at the club, you understand, I spoke to Christophe Verville. That's one of the head scouts. And one of the key things that he highlighted when we were talking to him, he said the same thing. He said, like, I want to look at a striker, because he clearly saw the game. And he looked at us and he goes like, I know what you guys want to say. We said, you need a striker. And he said, yes. So they know it. The club knows it, because it was too evident for them to see how difficult it was for them, regardless of what they already bought. Because they bought, like what Jules just highlighted. Fofana, he came, but we saw him in the game. Some of the guys that they're buying now are not guys that are going to be ready straight away. They're guys that are going to need time. Like a kid for Santos, the Brazilian kid. He's not going to be ready straight away. They're going to have to give him that kid time, and they know that as well, because they've seen him on training. The guy needs some time.
Just last thing on Chelsea, Jules, who's leaving tomorrow?
Hakim Ziyech, I'm being told, is pretty much done for the loan at PSG without an option to buy. It should be Australian. They looked at all different structure, even as a transfer. Right now, it looked like he's going to be a loan. Here we go. And then I think one of Jorginho or Gallagher, not both of them, maybe neither of them, but I think one of them, maybe Jorginho. We know that Arsenal and Arteta are big fans of his, and they tried to sign him before. So I think one of Gallagher and Jorginho, and Ziyech is pretty much done to Paris.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.